Welcome to the Martial Art Innovations Podcast. I'm your host, Don Frack, and today begins the first in a series of alumni episodes in which I interview students from my studio, usually black belts, on topics such as personal development, physical fitness, personal protection, or other such topics. Or in the case of today's interview, a lifetime of martial arts. Today's guest is Mr. Zach Ryan. I've known Mr. Ryan since he was 6 years old, and at the time of this interview, he's 23 years old. So we have the opportunity to have a great conversation about his time with me as a child, training into teens, as an adult, and what martial arts has meant to him in his life and how it's affected him. So please sit back and enjoy this first alumni episode with Mr. Zach Ryan. So I'm here with one of my black belts, Mr. Zach Ryan. So thank you so much for doing this to me. I really appreciate it.
Always happy to help.
So you started training with me. How old were you?
It's about 6 years old.
6.
Yeah.
And what's the first thing you remember about coming to class? As a little kid, what's the first thing you remember about training here?
So I have a very, very vivid, crisp memory of learning how to front kick onto the kick shields with like the little ninja instructors at the time. But also just the structure of the class itself was built into little week-long units of like we would learn balance, we would learn respect, we would learn discipline, and I think those have really stuck with me too. Just kind of that the kind of lessons that you had in those weeks right as we were starting in. I think it was called the Little Ninjas program. Yeah.
And so as a kid, what kept you coming back to class? Because kids can do any number of things. What kept you coming back?
Well, I remember when I was little, my internal child reasonings was that I just thought it was so awesome. I thought learning how to kick, punch, I just thought I was learning how to become a ninja. You know what I mean? But then I think looking on it now, it was definitely kind of the atmosphere and kind of community that this the studio inspires. Definitely like the role models that the instructors are, you especially. But I mean, I remember wanting to come and just hang out with the instructors, and I wanted to get like taught by them. I wanted to learn what they knew, because like I looked up to them and what they could do.
And so did you ever have a point at which you wanted to quit? You tried to stop coming at some point?
Oh, of course. I think everyone does, but I was no different than anyone else. That you'd hit rough spots. Maybe I had a couple rough classes where maybe I got in trouble for talking, or I just felt like I wasn't doing good and I just wanted to stop it all.
And how did you work through it? How does it that you're second degree black belt with us? How do you go through something like that and end up continuing on? I mean, what was the step?
So I attribute a lot of it to my parents. They were very good about listening to what I had to say. So if I ever had complaints or wanted to stop, they would listen to me. But they were very stern on finishing out a commitment. And that didn't necessarily mean me getting my black belt, but it could have meant the next belt.
So they wanted you to at least commit to some kind of an end point, like the
Yes.
next belt,
Yeah.
and then we'll reassess at that point.
They never wanted me to stop just kind of cold when I had a bad day and just stop. They always said, let's finish. We as a family would establish some length of time. And normally, because we were going through belts and stuff, it would tend to be, let's finish this. Let's go to the next graduation, get your belt, and then we'll see how you're feeling. And it was always that just happened to be a little low point. And by the time graduation rolled around, I was having a ton more fun, and I always wanted to keep going.
It all worked out.
Yeah.
So what other kind of activities were you doing? Because, I mean, in addition to school, what was your GPA in school?
So I think I ended high school with a 4.6 GPA.
4.6.
Yeah.
And also you completed your Eagle Scout.
Yes.
Which is a gigantic accomplishment in itself.
Yeah.
So high academics, achieving all that you needed to become an Eagle Scout, becoming a second degree black belt, all of that. How did you manage to juggle all of those things?
Well, at times it wasn't easy, for sure. A lot of it just boils down to time and trying to kind of prioritize your time. There were nights where I'd have to miss coming here one night because I just had too much homework, but then I'd try and make it up the next week by putting in a few extra hours. There were times where I'd have to skip some scout meetings or even just stay up late to kind of forge through homework and things like that. And it's not easy, and I think a lot of that comes from like the sense of discipline and work ethic that I got growing up, and a lot of that was shaped here in the studio.
We were talking before about friendships, and you are who you surround yourself with. Tell me a little bit about making friendships here.
So yeah, I mean, I have some lifelong friendships here that even though I may not see some of the people I grew up with now, if I do ever see them, we are all smiles. We're catching up. We're talking about coming here and being here. We're seeing what everyone's up to, and like being super proud of everything that we've all accomplished. A lot of the kids that I grew up with here and got my black belt with are out of college or graduated college, and they're now just kind of starting in their career, and it's just so cool to see. And I think it just stems from, again, that kind of sense of community that you have built here. I feel like, especially looking back now in reflection, the friendships that I made growing up here were super meaningful. Yeah.
And if you were to sum up maybe like the most important thing, if you can, or the top things that, looking back as an adult now, that training here you took with you from your childhood now into adulthood, what might that be?
So yeah, I've thought about this a lot just in reflection and things like that, and the word that always comes back to me is confidence. And that can be a broad word. I feel a lot of confidence in my martial arts ability, going to new schools, or new like martial arts studios in different places where I now live, and being confident that I can go out and spar with people, or being confident that as I may not be as technical as some of, like, let's say I'm doing boxing and I go take some boxing classes, I may not be as technical as the more experienced boxers, but I feel like the foundation of skills I have here really have helped me be able to kind of catch on and learn quickly in other martial arts.
Kind of at least a certain level of competency.
Yes.
That can translate across.
That definitely translates across. Yeah.
And what about confidence-wise? Besides martial arts training, I mean, where does that fit in?
So that, I mean, it bleeds into all aspects of my life, and it kind of becomes different things in itself. So like the confidence that I have in myself, I've really valued growing up. As a kid, I always had confidence. And because of coming here and like learning the things that I did, I had confidence when I faced other kinds of adversity that were not just martial arts related, in relationships or in school. I had confidence in myself that when I faced these kind of moments of discomfort or adversity or like tough times in life, I had confidence that I was emotionally strong enough to get through it, and that I kind of like valued my own intelligence, my own personality enough to kind of have like fortitude going through all these things. So it manifests itself in this almost kind of sense of like self-love and care that I see a lot of people struggling with that are kind of my age.
Yeah. I hear that a lot. And so, I mean, I've had many black belts. I don't get the opportunity to stay as close as we have. What keeps you coming back as an adult? You're off to college. I see you summer break, winter break, and that. What keeps you coming back?
Yeah. So I've had a unique experience in the last probably 4 or 5 years of after I went off to college. I would come back during the summers, during Christmas time when I was home for breaks. And I mean, I would always want to come back and either kind of help out teach or take class. And I mean, over the years, definitely like the faces of the studio have changed aside from yourself and Miss Gigi. But so the faces may change, but it's always the same feeling, always that same community that I felt since I was 6 coming here. It's that same feeling. It's like a second home coming here. And it's been really interesting and a fun experience coming into adulthood, coming like our changing relationship of having like, I was 6 when I met you, so that was a very established instructor student relationship, adult child relationship. And now that we've kind of come, I've grown older and like kind of come into my own as an adult, I consider you a good friend now. and that's been a really interesting, changing relationship.
Yeah, it definitely it is. That brotherhood and friendship is different from the time you're a child to now.
Yeah.
You know, and in closing, I want to thank you for taking the time to do this. I greatly appreciate it. And, you know, we've been able to keep this relationship. You know, you've been an important part of my life, you know, because you've stayed active. I've gotten to watch you go through all the phases through kindergarten, elementary school, junior high school, off to college, and see the amazing man that you've grown into be. And I cannot tell you how proud I am of you. And I want to thank you so much. Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you for checking out the Martial Art Innovations podcast. Please make sure that you subscribe so you can get future episodes. We're available on all the major podcasting services as well as video versions on YouTube. Please leave a comment down below. What did you think of the episode? Is there something you'd like to hear in future episodes? I'd be glad to accommodate you any way that I can. If you'd like more information about what I do or my school, please check out martialartinnovations.com, and I look forward to having you join me on the next episode.